The number one most common question I get asked in sobriety is, how did you get sober? That is the most frequent thing that people comment on my page. It's the most frequent DM that I receive. Everyone wants to know, how did you get sober? And it's so hard to put that into a response over text or over, comment or DM. I would go as far as to say impossible to explain all of my journey with getting sober in a couple sentence response to a comment. It's so hard. So I just want to give you the rundown in this episode, tell you how I got sober and what my story kind of looks like. My journey is not very typical. It's a little bit out of the box because I did not go to rehab. I did not do AA. And I just want to give you a quick PSA. Those things are great. And they work for a lot of people. That's why they exist. Okay? It works. It gives people a sense of community. It helps people quit drinking in a safe environment where they are being monitored. So you know that you're not going to harm yourself. They are great resources. So while they were not a part of my journey, I do not want to deter anyone from exploring those. And another PSA, unfortunately, quitting alcohol is one of the few drugs that you can die from quitting. So please always be careful. Consider consulting a doctor. Again, it's not something I did. Should I have talked to a doctor? Probably. But I was so shameful and embarrassed that I didn't. And luckily, I was okay. Everything was all right. But let me just tell you that wherever you're at in your drinking, your doctor's seen worse. It's kind of like when you go to the nail salon and you're going to get a pedicure and you're like, oh my God, my feet are so horrible right now. I got blisters and ingrown toenails and you got gross toes, okay? I guarantee those nail ladies have seen worse feet than yours. And in the same way, your doctor, when you talk about your drinking, has seen worse. They have. So have that open dialogue. If you don't want to tell anybody else in your life, let the doctor be like the one person that you talk to. So just be safe. And with all of that out of the way, let's get into how I got sober. Welcome to the Sober Scoop. This is a judgment-free zone where we talk about how to get sober and stay sober. You're not alone. I hope you feel seen. Quitting alcohol is the best decision I've ever made. So I guess to explain how I got sober, I need to briefly explain how I got to the point that I did with my drinking. And if you've been listening to the show for a while, you probably have a good idea at this point, because there are a couple of factors that heavily contributed to my negative relationship with alcohol. Number one I would say there's three things. Two kind of go hand in hand. Number one is COVID. COVID introduced me to morning drinking. I was dating this guy at the time, and this was at the very beginning of our relationship, so things were very exciting and fun, and we were both out of work because I was working at a bar, but then also in the entertainment industry, doing modeling, acting, whatever, and he was a producer. And so we were both out of work, and we were kind of like, this is crazy. This is never going to happen again in the world. What is going on? Let's go get a 6-pack of ciders and play Wii all day long, the video game, and just drink. And like, we got McDonald's drive-thru, and just like, that's how I put on so much weight. Oh my God. But anyway, yeah, we were like, why not just drink all day? It was such a weird time. And like, I was one of the people who got a bad relationship with alcohol during that time, but I don't shame other people who did that as well, because it was such a crazy time. I mean, do you remember, like, I remember walking down my neighborhood and you could just see people's recycling bins like overflowing with wine bottles. You weren't alone. I'm telling myself this. You weren't alone for overdoing it during COVID. that was such a weird time. And even once the bars opened up again and stuff, it was like, oh my God, yay, we could go out again. Like, let's go drink. I don't know. It was also just a confusing time. We were concerned for the world. So, like, emotionally as well, we just wanted to drink it away. A lot of people developed alcohol problems during COVID. So that was the start of it. And that guy that I was dating, he was English from the UK. And, yeah, you could say that there's a cultural difference when it comes to drinking, but also just he way overdrank. And I kind of like fell into that trap almost. And we would go to the football game, or no, we'd go watch the, European soccer at the pubs and stuff, at the British bars. And we'd go there at like 6 a.m., 7 a.m., and the bars would be serving alcohol because the soccer is on TV. It's like such a thing. And so I guess that's when I was introduced to morning drinking, and also that's when I was introduced to hair of the dog, and that drinking cures hangovers. So that's a long way round of saying that COVID was not a great impact, and then that kind of trickled into this guy I was dating and his impact on my life. The relationship started out really fun. I would say it was, for the first few months, like the most fun and happy times I've had in a relationship. Like that's the deal with these like narcissistic, emotionally abusive relationships, is that in my situation, I had the highest highs with this guy, but I also had the lowest lows. And it started off really, really good. It started off amazing, in fact. We had so much fun. And yeah, we were drinking like crazy. It was fun. It was a good time. Okay. Ended up getting a pretty bad drinking problem from all that. But yeah, it was fun while it lasted. Anyway, so he starts treating me not so well. And it was such a toxic situation because we would be drinking. He would like treat me horribly, and I do not yell. I am not a fighter. I am not physical at all. And this guy sparked something in me. I didn't ever get physical, but like I would be yelling and crying and saying mean things. And I'm like, who am I right now? I'm really just trying to defend myself, but I'm being mean. And in a way, it's like that person deserved my attitude because he was treating me so horribly. I was being treated like crap in that relationship, just told the most horrific things about myself, that I should hate myself and I'm a nobody and I think I'm all that because of this, this, and this, and you're nothing without me, and blah, blah, blah. Just a lot of the typical, just verbally, emotionally abusive, manipulative, all that jazz was going on. So anyways, we would get into these like fights. They were horrible. Oh my God, screaming and just, they were horrible. And then the next morning or whatever, he'd be like, let's just skip work, or once COVID was over, he'd be like, let's just skip work and go to the bar. We would go to Hooters down in Long Beach. And anyway, yeah, we would like drink to mend our relationship again. It was so weird. I remember after one of our biggest fights, he came over to my place and I was busy recording stuff all day. And he said, oh, I'll come over and I'll help you record stuff and we can just hash this out. And I was like, okay. And he sees that I have a tequila bottle on my bar cart. And he's like, you want to just have some tequila? And I was like, it's 9 a.m. And I'm like, okay. So now we're drinking tequila at 9 a.m. on a work day together, basically to get through our fight from the night before. It was actually crazy. So then that guy, he starts treating me worse and worse and worse. It gets to a pretty dark place. And we had some crazy things happen in our relationship that I probably won't ever feel comfortable divulging on this podcast. made some bad decisions. It was just really, really awful. He was like 14 years older than me and just influencing me in not great ways. And it was all really bad. It got to a really bad place. And I finally got the courage to cut it off, like for good. I had probably tried to break up with him like 6 times, and then the 7th time it finally stuck. And unfortunately, he started stalking me, showing up at my door, leaving me notes on my car, like lurking outside my apartment complex, following me, watching me through my window. I mean, it was like all sorts of crazy stuff. He would call me like 80 to 100 times a day. I'd block his number. He'd use some program to get new phone numbers all the time. It was really weird. I changed my phone number, but he somehow found that through my Apple ID or something. But then I changed the Apple ID, and then I was finally free from that. So changed my phone number, moved out of my apartment, broke my lease, like just really all sorts of craziness. I had to get a restraining order. Just bad stuff, because I ended up dating somebody new and he was kind of threatening the new person. So that's when I had to get the restraining order involved. And that was that time, I kid you not, was harder than the relationship itself, which was really awful and, like I said, manipulative and verbally, emotionally abusive. The recovering from that and the restraining order situation, and oh my God, just like living in secrecy. Oh my God, it makes me so sad thinking about, like, I was scared to leave my house. I was scared to drive anywhere. I was scared to post on the internet, which was my job as like a social media influencer. I knew he was watching me from fake accounts, even if I had blocked him and any that he might create. Like, he would find a way to know what I'm doing. I would never post in real time. I still don't do that, by the way. Shout out, ladies and gentlemen. Never post while you're still at that location. If you're at the baseball game, wait till you get home to post. This isn't just for big influencers. This is for anybody. It's not safe. Nobody needs to know your exact whereabouts while you're still there. So, quick PSA about safety. But anyway, so I drank even more during that recovery period than I did in the relationship itself, because I was so depressed. Every day I woke up and I'm like, what's going to be on my phone? How many calls did I miss? Did he try to show up? Did he harass one of my neighbors to try to get in? Like, what did he leave on my car? Do I need to check for trackers? It was just so hectic and heavy that drinking was the only way I could get through the day, truly. And that's why I sometimes say that alcohol was my savior as much as it was my biggest downfall in life. Like, it got me through that time. And that's when I started drinking pretty regularly in the morning, because I couldn't imagine getting through the day without alcohol. Like, I just couldn't deal with it. Alcohol was the only thing that just shut all that off and like made it a little bit easier for me to deal with. I remember I drove down Sunset Boulevard in LA, and there's all those restaurants lining the street, and I would look and see people like cheersing, laughing with their friends, and I could not compute how they were able to do that. I was like, when will I ever get to that point again? I hadn't smiled in so long. I remember I was sitting there thinking, like, I haven't smiled in so long. All this has just been so heavy, and I can't imagine smiling and laughing with your friends. I would look around and be like, how are these people not dealing with something of this magnitude? Like, how are they so lucky that they're not going through something like this? None of it made sense. I didn't understand how people could be happy in the world. And I'm sure if you've gone through any sort of trauma or grief or something like that, you understand this feeling of like, how is everyone just going about their lives when you're going through something so crazy? And in case you're in that low point, it does get better eventually, and you are that person laughing and cheersing and having fun with your friends. Like, you will get to that happy place again, even if you're in the darkest place of your life. Okay. So anyway, then after that, I tore my ACL. Like, after I had finally gotten rid of this guy and, like, he's leaving me alone at last, and I have some freedom and some happiness and some peace, I tear my ACL, I'm bedridden, and the alcohol problem gets sent into another orbit because I just had to sit on the couch. I couldn't do any physical activity. That's when I put on a lot of weight. It was horrible. I drank so much. I thought, why not? I'm so freaking depressed being in this giant brace for so long, not being able to do anything, not being able to go anywhere, play the fun sports that I enjoy playing. I was just depressed, man. And I had already been introduced to how to drink in an unhealthy way from that relationship and the recovery from all of that. So I drank even more. So that's how I got to my really bad point with drinking. Sorry that took a little while to explain. But now to jump in to how I got sober. So I realized that I was drinking in a bad way. Through all of that, I knew it. But I kind of felt like I deserved it in a way because, like I said, I just was feeling so low. I mean, that was the worst couple years of my life, dealing with all of that. And then the injury on top of all that, like, I truly felt like I needed alcohol to get through that time. And quick side note, you don't need alcohol to get through hard times. You can do it without alcohol. But I used alcohol to get through all of that. And yeah, that's why I wasn't interested in getting sober while I was still going through that. Because I was like, I need alcohol to get through this time. But then I kind of got through all that, right? Like, I started to heal from the trauma of that relationship. I started to move on with my life. I was actually in a healthy relationship with another guy. I was healing from the injury. I'm able to move. I'm able to do my hobbies that I enjoy again. I was better. I was like healed in a way, or at least getting there. And yet the drinking persisted. And I think that's when I was kind of like, okay, I'm still drinking in this way, even now that I'm through all of that. And I'll never forget, I saw a video from this girl, Haley Bo Bailey, not the super famous one on TikTok, but another one who is also a model in LA. Like, we've followed each other for a long time, but we only met maybe like once in 2017 or something. And she posted a video about her sobriety birthday, that she was 1 year sober. And I was like, whoa. I had noticed that she had this big glow up. She lost a lot of weight. She got back into modeling. She looked incredible. She looked way younger. And then I see this video about her sobriety. And I saved it. I should go back and find that video because I saved it on Instagram. Because I was like, I need to do that too. It was the first person I saw who, in my eyes, was kind of like me, that was getting sober. She was young. She was a model in Los Angeles, female. I just hadn't related to anybody that I saw online talking about sobriety. And then I saw her and I was like, oh my God, she had a problem with alcohol? First of all, I was like, oh wow, another girl who doesn't look like an alcoholic is an alcoholic, I guess. That's horrible, but stereotypes exist. And so I was like, oh, wow, I didn't realize she had a drinking problem. That's crazy that she's so open about this and talking about it. And then she posted her sobriety, and I was like, oh, my God, if she can do it, maybe I can do it too. And I think that was the first moment that I even considered sobriety as an option, where I was like, oh, maybe that's something I need to look into. And then from that video, it probably took me 1.5 years to finally get sober from the day I saw that video. I thought about it for a long, long time, and I tried different things. I would say that is when the moderating began. The moderating saga. Oh my God. Moderating is exhausting. I tried only drinking on the weekends. But then it was like, when does the weekend begin? Is it Friday afternoon? What if Monday is a holiday? Can I drink on that day? What if I go to a birthday party on a Tuesday? Can I then not drink on a Saturday to make up for that? Like, oh, it was just a mess. I tried only drinking past 5 p.m., but it's like, oh, my company's East Coast, so what's the difference if I start at 2? And then like Saturdays, it's okay to drink before 5 p.m., right? I failed. Any rule I set in place, I failed. I even set a rule of only drinking hard alcohol because my favorite drinks were beer, wine, and seltzer. So I wanted to make it like more difficult for myself to enjoy a drink. That didn't work. You bet I found a way to enjoy my hard alcohol. So I failed at every moderating tactic I tried. Until I tried dry January. I don't know if I've ever talked about this on the podcast, so very exciting. January 2024. I got sober June 2024, but January 2024, I try dry January. And I did it. I went 30 days has September, April, June, and November. 31 days without alcohol. And it was hard. It was so hard. I talk about this all the time, but I was not drinking alcohol through willpower. Every day I was saying, don't drink, don't drink, don't drink. It was hard. Alcohol was on my mind 100% of the time. And that's why I always say that you kind of have to do the deeper work on yourself to figure out why you drink. Because if you literally just quit the substance and like randomly do a dry January, it's going to be hard because you're not healing all the reasons that you drink. So let's say you drink to get through this trauma. You drink when you're stressed. You drink because you hate your job, whatever. And then you just take away your coping mechanism of alcohol. Well, you still got to deal with all that stuff. You just now no longer have the thing that was making those things bearable. So life gets hard. And dry January was hard for me. I thought about alcohol every minute of every day. I had to grit my teeth and bear it. Like, it was hard. And it took willpower, which I believe that to be successful in sobriety, we need to do the deeper work. So it doesn't require willpower. You just like change your lifestyle basically. And you don't need alcohol anymore, which is really cool. Very cool way of approaching sobriety. But of course, for dry January, I just quit alcohol and boom. And you bet on February 1st, I was drinking again. But it did open my eyes to the fact that I could do it. I was like, wow, I felt really good. I felt healthy. I slept better. I felt like my skin looked better. And just proving to myself that I could do it was a sign for me. So, I was successful in dry January. And then in February, I thought for a second, like, oh my God, should I continue this? Like, I should at least drink less now that I've done a dry January, right? Like, I clearly don't need alcohol, so chill. But no, I went back into full-blown drinking, almost worse than it was before. That point, the drinking got really bad. I just went from one extreme to the other, basically. And I think somewhere deep inside, this is a hot take, somewhere deep inside, I think I knew I was going to get sober eventually after dry January. I was kind of like, that's going to need to happen full time, but I don't want it to be now. And so I almost think that I was drinking in excess to enjoy it while I still had it, knowing that I'd be quitting soon. I don't know. Could be a subconscious kind of thing that was going on, but anyway, so after dry January, I started drinking like crazy again. And then I had this epiphany that happened. I saw a video. I started definitely being on sober TikTok, seeing all these videos about alcohol and its effects and things like that. And I remember I saw this one video. This really shows how much social media impacts me and probably a lot of people in this world, because these two videos that I'm talking about were really impactful on my journey. But anyway, this was a guy, and his page is mostly about ADHD. He's like a British guy, might be Irish or something. Australian? I don't know. Anyways, he's a man with an accent on TikTok who talks about ADHD all the time. And he made a video about ADHD and alcohol and how so many people with ADHD turn to alcohol to quiet their brains. And when I saw that video, it was like a light bulb went off in my head. I was just like, oh my God, that's so me. Because after my traumatic situation with that relationship, after my injury, after all that, I was still drinking. And I was not one to get drunk. I really wasn't. I didn't like to be too drunk. I liked to maintain a 2-beer buzz all day. And that's why I believed that I was able to just function as normal and take my work meetings and go out for lunch with friends and go do these presentations for work. Like, I would do all of that under the influence because I was basically just maintaining what I considered normal, which was like a 2-beer buzz just to bring me back down to earth because my mind was just racing at all times. So, that video, I was like, oh, wow, that's a sign. So that was kind of something that clicked in my mind. I was like, okay, I'm realizing why I might drink. Maybe I need to learn some strategies to deal with my hyperactive brain and the ADHD rather than drinking to numb them. So I did a lot of work on that. And then continued to drink a bit longer. We're almost there. Then I started having a pain in my upper right abdomen. And for me, that was the moment. That was how I got sober. I had this pain, and I looked it up online. Pain in my upper right abdomen. And there's pretty much nothing good that comes with that search. You got pancreatitis, you got liver disease, you got fatty liver, you got cirrhosis, everything related to drinking for that upper right abdomen pain. That's where your liver is. Actually, I don't know about pancreatitis, so take that one out. But yeah, all these liver diseases are coming up. And obviously, like with the amount that I was drinking, 15 beers a day or 2 bottles of wine and 6 beers or whatever, like the extent that I was drinking at, that pain had to be linked to my alcohol. There was no two ways about it. And I tried to convince myself at first that it was an ab soreness. And I remember I did some sit-ups in bed because I was like, is this an ab pain that I'm feeling? But it's only on one side. And I don't remember doing any ab workouts. So what is this? I tried to convince myself otherwise. But eventually I was like, this is probably something to do with my liver. And a lot of people say, oh, the liver doesn't have any pain receptors. Well, when your liver is inflamed, it pushes up against other organs, which is what causes that dull pain. So I was essentially scared straight into sobriety. After finding out how quickly something like cirrhosis escalates, how young people can die from liver disease and cirrhosis, I was terrified. I was like, this is not going to be me. This can't be my life. This is not my story. Like, I want to have kids. I want to be an active parent. I want to meet my grandchildren one day. I want to live a long life. I don't want to die at 40 because I enjoy a drink. No. So that is what really kicked me into high gear. And now getting into the nitty-gritty of how I actually got sober, I tried tapering down. So, quitting alcohol cold turkey is said to be very dangerous. And I was really scared of that. So I would literally call Coors Light my medication. And I'd be like, I have to have my medicine. So I'd try to go like 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours without alcohol. And then I would have one as my medicine. And it was a really sad moment when I was like crying one day because I was trying so hard to not drink, but I needed my medicine, and I drank the Coors Light like while I was literally crying, and I was like, I just need my medicine. Oh, that was a That was a low point. It's just an emotional moment. But anyway, I tried to taper off. A lot of people do that. I don't know if it's actually a good move. Talk to your doctor. They're not going to advise that. They're going to put you on some stuff that will actually help. But anyway, I tried tapering down. Unfortunately, that didn't work, and I slingshotted right back to a full-blown drinking problem. So I was like, okay, I can't do this. So I have to just quit. I have to do it. And if I said to myself, if I feel awful, if I start to feel ill, if I start to get really bad shakes or sweats or whatever, I'll talk to a doctor. But for now, I got to just stop. And I woke up on June 20th, 2024, and I just felt it in my soul. I didn't prepare for that day to be my day. I was like back in my full-blown drinking, and I just woke up that day and I just said, today's the day. I'm quitting. I didn't necessarily say I'm never drinking again, but I was just like, I'm stopping. And so I stopped. And I guess you could call that quitting cold turkey, but clearly there was so much building up to that. A year and a half of curiosity, trying to moderate, trying dry January, trying to taper down. And then eventually, for me, it seemed that I had to be 100% on or 100% off. And on that day, June 20th, 2024, I just chose to be 100% off. And let me tell you right now, the moment I did that, I felt like I finally won. Because like I said, I failed at moderating over and over and over again. I was a failure. But with quitting, I won. Like I did it. I feel like I've achieved something. I've been successful in something. And I felt that from really early on. Every day felt like a win. Getting to a week sober felt like a win. Getting to 10 days, double digits, felt like a win. Getting to 2 weeks, getting to 90 days, 100 days. Like, there's so many wins in sobriety. Whereas moderating, you're still hyper-fixating on the alcohol and you are kind of failing yourself. Sobriety is peace. Sobriety feels like success. And it was the best thing I've ever done. Beyond that, how I stayed sober, where to begin? I have so many episodes on this about getting good NA drinks. I talk about adaptogen drinks a lot and how those helped me in the beginning with my hyperactivity and restlessness. I talk about doing the deeper work on yourself so that you no longer desire alcohol. You don't need it to get through life because you've kind of healed those traumas or grief or whatever in your life. I've done a lot of research on narcissism and kind of what I went through in my relationship, and that's helped me just wrap my head around that situation a bit. And it was still weighing heavy on me until, I don't know, maybe like a year ago. A few months into my sobriety, I really did some serious work to get through that trauma from the relationship. I probably should have gone to therapy, but I never did. I just watched videos and read books and just learned as much as I could, and that really helped me. But anyway, with staying sober, I talk about finding support. We have a Facebook support group through the podcast. It's called The Scoop Troop on Facebook. The link to join is in the description of every podcast episode, so feel free to join. I talk about impulse control and learning to manage your urges and your cravings. I talk about giving into your sweet tooth and allowing that in the beginning. That is a long story. How to stay sober is a long story, and that's basically what this podcast is dedicated to. So if you want more tips and tricks for that, just start going down the rabbit hole of this podcast if you haven't already. And I talk about so many tips and just my personal experience and things that have helped me. But this has been my journey thus far with sobriety. And I hope you enjoyed hearing the in-depth story, because I've hinted at a lot of those things, but to go really in depth with what I actually did, what I experienced to cause the drinking problem, and then all the little things leading up to me finally getting sober. Because I think people see a sober person, someone who's alcohol free, and they're just like, oh yeah, you just like decided to quit drinking. Cool. Like mine was at least a year and a half of considering it, trying different things, trying so hard to hold on to any ounce of alcohol that I could without quitting fully. And then it was the ADHD revelation, and then it was the liver pain, and just all these different things contributed to me finally getting sober. So that's why I can't respond in 1 or 2 sentences to comments on TikTok. It's like, where do I begin? So this is where I begin. This episode. I hope I answered some questions, and I don't want any of this to really be seen as advice, because I didn't seek professional help, and I think that professional help is the right route, whatever, for a lot of people. Like I said, I did this in an unconventional way. I did what felt right for me, but it was kind of a weird way to get to being sober. Was it the best way to do it? Probably not. I could have done it a little bit more by the books, and things may have been easier, but who knows? It's worked for me. So yeah, this isn't an episode of advice. It's an episode of just sharing some insight on my life, my journey, and give you just a little bit more details on how I got to the place I did and how I am now the person that I am. Sober. Yay. So, thanks for listening, and I'll see you for the next episode. Bye.